largely speaking, and when you look at the research, regret usually revolves around a behavior or something that we wish we would have done differently. And that can be something, in the wish we would have done something differently. Um, that can be a decision we made, an action. It could be across anything. But we're usually wishing that we could have or would have done something differently. And I'd have to say, that I don't know anyone personally who hasn't experienced or doesn't hold some regrets in their life. I think this is so normal. It can be subjective, or maybe we didn't meet our own personal expectations. And sometimes we might experience a regret a little more deeply years later. And I am going to speak to that a little bit more because there's reasons why that occur. The one thing with regret, though, is we can often over-identify with it. As a matter of fact, we can make it too much a part of like it somehow defines us rather than learning from it. And these are normal responses to regret. I won't read every single one out here, but these are really natural, normal responses to regret: disappointment, grief or loss, embarrassment, anger, judgment. Is there anything that, in terms of responses, that you might add to the list there? Okay. Well, when it comes to moving through regret, and again, when you look at the research, one of the things I want to say just before we start going into this is, I think one of the things that I've really learned through this class is that it would be so nice if we could erase some regrets and not have them at all. So I appreciate that there are regrets in our lives that, how I often phrase it, is they can sting more than other regrets. However, there are some regrets that, as we all would know, we're just not able to change what's occurred. It happened. This is for some regrets. It's happened. And there's nothing we can do to change that regret. So when we talk about moving through regret, it's not that, we can ever erase a regret, but it is possible to really change our relationship to a regret or regrets so that the sting becomes less, and we're not allowing it to identify us and stop us from really living. So when you feel ready to meet a regret, when you feel ready to work through a regret, because sometimes something could have happened recently and you're not ready to deal with that regret yet. However, when you are, then one of the first things we can do is to acknowledge, and what I say is meet our regret. So we're actually going to work through our regret. And there's a really healthy way of being able to do this. And this comes out of the field of self-compassion. There's an exercise you can do that's known as a compassion letter. So as I said, when you're ready to acknowledge your regret, here's how a compassion letter works. So you carve out some time where you can either write or type it out, whatever you prefer, or you could even speak it into your phone if you want to. And here's what you're doing. So you're taking a regret and you're going to actually write out all that you feel around this regret. So, those responses that I mentioned previously, write down exactly how you feel about that regret. And you don't need to hold back. You're really being honest, and you're acknowledging how you experience this regret, your thoughts and your feelings around it. And then after you've done that, Imagine a really close friend, someone who supports you unconditionally. And here's the next part of this. Imagine how they would remind you that everybody has regrets and how normal it is to have regrets. And then write down how they would remind you of your good qualities and your good qualities and who you are as a human being. And then imagine that they were with you talking about the things that you could learn and take away from this regret. And in those learnings, how those learnings could really help you going forward. And that you're not this awful person or anything because of this regret. And so as you write that letter, again, what you're thinking about is you're imagining someone who really supports you unconditionally. Someone that it wouldn't matter what you said, they can hold anything and everything about this regret or regrets. And you know what? If you find it, for some reason, if you find it hard to imagine a friend or someone who's been really supportive in your life, then imagine that you're walking beside a friend with regret. And imagine what you would say to them in writing them a compassion letter, using the same things that I just spoke about. And then after you've written that letter, read it through, and then just put it away for a time. When I say a time, I mean, you might put it away for a few hours and go for a walk or go do something different, whatever else you're doing in your day, and then go back and read it again. And read it as often as you need to. And here's what's been found in the research is when you write out, when you meet your regret, you acknowledge your thoughts and feelings around it, how it makes you feel, what you think about it. And then you imagine this friend writing these pieces to you that I mentioned. It's been found that when you write that out and then you read it, you put it away, you go back and read it, the regret starts to have less sting, if you like. It doesn't weigh as heavy in your heart. And it can be a beginning of starting to move through that regret.